A Denver-based video game developer made a decision earlier this year to open up a brand new studio in Calgary, creating some jobs and help to stimulate the economy at the same time. We want to find out what made Calgary so attractive and also learn more about the video game development business. Joining me now is John Higgins, Marketing and Communications Director with New World Interactive, the award-winning developer of the multi-million selling Insurgency video game franchise. I can see it on your t-shirt there. John, welcome to BCN.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Now, I know you guys were also considering Toronto, so tell me, what made you choose Calgary over the GTA?
So part of our move involved relocating staff from across the world. So for us, it was very important our team had a really great quality of life. Calgary has some great amenities, really highly accessible. And compared to Toronto or Vancouver, which we also looked at, we feel it has a much better cost of living and living standards for our employees who are moving here and also our future employees. We were very close to making a deal with Toronto Global. However, when we came to Calgary, we were blown away by the reception that we got. There's a real entrepreneurial spirit within the business community here, and we met some great people who really embraced our arrivals. So we think it's a really fantastic opportunity to be at the forefront of building a gaming cluster here in Calgary, as opposed to joining a pre-existing gaming industry.
There was also the Opportunity Calgary Investment Fund and the Alberta government's tax credit for companies in the interactive digital media business were key factors. Have you already received some of the grants, or is that still forthcoming?
So it's important to say that we haven't yet received any of these grants and incentives. They certainly were a major part of our decision to look at Calgary in setting up our business. Our application for OSIF is currently in review, and we're hoping we'll get a favourable decision by sort of early fall. We're hoping to hear back from them. As far as the digital media tax credits, the applications for those are on hold due to a review by the incoming provincial administration. So that incentive has unfortunately been delayed. We're optimistic that the new administration will reinstate the program. They'll see the benefits that it can bring, and we're confident that they'll reinstate the program shortly. Both of these were really significant factors for us to choose Calgary, and it will be a huge benefit for us to have that additional grants and support from the government.
So John, how many employees do you have working in Calgary right now, and how many are you hoping to expand with in the future?
So we're relatively new here. We've only just opened up the studio. We've got 5 people here with me in the office, and our team from around the world will be continuing to immigrate to Calgary over the coming 3 to 4 months. And we're also hiring new people here locally in Calgary. We anticipate to grow to about 25 people here in the studio by the end of the year. And we also envision adding further people in 2020 and beyond, potentially scaling up to the size of 40, 50, maybe 60 people. However, a lot of that does depend on provincial incentives and funding, which will help us offset those recruitment costs and project planning.
My son actually graduated from the video game development program at Niagara College, an honor student, 3-year program, a couple of years ago, and he's had a real hard time getting a job in the gaming industry because a lot of game developers, gaming studios, they always want somebody with experience, 3 to 5 years of experience. So let me ask you something, John. Will there be opportunities for people like my son who have recently graduated or will be graduating?
Absolutely. Initially, with the first few key Pillarstone hires, we are looking for people who've got prior industry background, just so we can get the company set up and running with the core staff in place. But over the future, we do plan to create some more junior level, entry level positions, as well as potentially look at internships. We're also very keen to work with the educational institutions here and around Calgary to ensure that the graduates that are coming out of these programs have the correct skills and are able to be involved with these newly created jobs here in the city.
Now, if your company ends up being successful in Calgary, John, would this potentially attract more video developer companies to Alberta?
Absolutely. We believe there's so much potential here, and with the right government and provincial support, we truly believe that Calgary can become this new emerging gaming hub within Canada. Between ourselves and Finnair Games, which are a startup incubator, we're planning to support up to 50 new gaming projects and teams over the next 3 to 4 years. And we kind of view ourselves as anchor tenants, providing the draw for other developers and companies that service the industry to be drawn and move into Calgary.
Now, you specialize in first-person shooter games with 3 games so far on the PC market, and I understand that the Canadian team will be working on launching these games into the console market?
Absolutely. Calgary is going to be our main development studio. We've also got another smaller office in Denver, Colorado, where we're headquartered. And the team here will be working on post-release support for the PC version of our games, which are already on the market, as well as the console version, which we're really excited to be expanding to that new market for the very first time. And also the team here that we're building in Calgary will also be working on some as yet unannounced future projects. This is really going to be our core development studio for the foreseeable future.
So what's the key to success then, John, with first-person shooter games like Insurgency Sandstorm or Day of Infamy? Is it basically the ones that are the most realistic that win out?
Not necessarily. The games industry is a rapidly growing industry with hundreds of games launching every single week. I'd say the most important thing is to kind of find a niche that you fill and to make sure that you create something which is fun, unique, and really exciting to people. Realism and immersiveness is our particular niche and has been successful for us. However, innovation is what's key in the industry, doing something new. You can look at some of the most successful games out there right now, Fortnite, for example. That's not a realistic game, but it's fun. So you don't necessarily need to be the most realistic game. You just need to create something which is unique, which is new, which is fun, and which really captures people's imagination and their attention.
So how do you respond to parents that have concerns about games being too graphic or too violent? Should there be some sort of boundaries there in place?
I mean, it's a very legitimate concern that parents have. Our games are very much mature and they are not intended for children. We clearly market them as such. They're labeled with all the necessary country and region specific age ratings. We don't advertise towards children. However, parents should definitely be very proactive in moderating what their children have access to and are able to play. They need to be informed about the purchases that they are making for their children and the type of content that those games can depict. Our game depicts war in a very realistic setting. Frankly, it's quite brutal and unforgiving, and we certainly in no way glorify war or violence. Our game is intended for a mature audience, and for those people, it's a really fantastic experience, but it's certainly not intended towards children, or our games in particular are not.
Now, a lot of people, including my son, they love playing with their friends online. Now, is there a benefit in learning how to work together effectively if you're playing with somebody in London, England, maybe somebody in Denver, Colorado, and you're based in Calgary or Lethbridge here?
Absolutely. Teamwork and communication are really key skills, especially in our game, which is very teamwork oriented. And they're also really important life skills. You need to be able to effectively communicate and work with other people, be it in the workforce or when you're playing a game. And games have this huge ability now to connect people from all over the world, all different kind of backgrounds. As you said, you could be playing with someone from England, someone from India, someone from the US, and it's really that global reach that allows people to connect in ways that they never would have been able to do historically.
Now, you said a lot of your games are for more of the mature crowd. What is the age range that typically play these kinds of video games? And are the majority of the users male?
So for our game in particular, we normally see the age range of about 18 to 34. These are mostly male, but over the recent years, for the past 5 or so years, we've seen a big increase in the number of female gamers, not only within our games, but across the broader games industry. It's always very hard to get accurate demographics of our users due to various data protection rules and regulations, how much we can actually collect. Most of our information comes from the platform providers, be it Steam or Sony or Microsoft, as those are people who the players create accounts with and give them the the information on their age, their gender, their location, as opposed to us collecting that directly.
So when I play games, a lot of times with consoles, but today a lot of people love their phones. They love playing games on the phones. How much of a market, how much of an increase are you seeing when it comes to smartphones?
The gaming market is absolutely huge. It went through this sort of massive meteoric rise as phones became more accessible. They came down in cost, the hardware improved. Mobile gaming has really overtaken, and people like being able to game on the move. They don't necessarily want to have a really expensive high-end PC or have to be tied to their living room setup. They want to be able to game when they're commuting, when they're at the playground, and whenever they've got 5 minutes of downtime. And I think over the next few years, we're really going to see the emergence of sort of true mobile gaming. A lot of mobile gaming historically has been sort of your small app-type games, lots of quizzes and sort of quest-type games. But with the way that technology is going and the emergence of cloud gaming services, as the hardware becomes more accessible, I think we'll see the emergence of more true gaming experiences, the likes of first-person shooters. You can see this already happening with Call of Duty Mobile, PUBG Mobile. A lot of the big AAA studios are moving into that area, and I only see it growing.
So where's the biggest overhead for your company that you see when it comes to video game development?
So for us, technology is always improving at a rapidly growing rate. The key thing is to stay at the cutting edge of that technology, because the games that we're developing, they are not going to be hitting the market now. We need to be thinking multiple steps ahead. The games that we're putting into the early concept and prototyping stages now, they won't be out for 3, 4, or 5 years. So you really need to be thinking ahead.
That's interesting how you were saying. Interesting, John, how you were saying you're going after the demographic 18 to 34. How about for those of us who are a little bit older, you know, maybe the Generation Xers going after the mature crowd, coming up with some mobile Galaga games, Space Invaders, Asteroids, Pac-Man, you know, a lot of the games of the 80s that a lot of us Gen Xers grew up with.
Yeah, I mean, you can see this already happening. The games industry tends to go in sort of cycles, and you can see fairly recently there's been a lot of reboots and remakes of classic sort of 90s games, maybe not the games from the 70s and the 80s, but nowadays there's the Spyro games have had a reboot, Crash Bandicoot has had a reboot, and we're getting to that phase where for people who grew up in the 90s playing games, they're now starting to have their own kids, their own families. They want to share that experience that they grew up with their own children. And so I think you will see a lot of remakes of classic games coming up in the future.
So looking down the road, where do you see the video game business heading, let's say, in the next 10 to 15 years?
Well, the video games industry, it recently overtook both films and music combined as the largest entertainment industry. I only see this continuing to grow. Hardware prices are coming down and down and down. Games are becoming more accessible, playable on more devices. I think we'll see mobile gaming, as you alluded to earlier, growing a lot more, as well as cloud-based gaming is certainly something that people are looking forward to in the future. VR is another very exciting area, both virtual reality and mixed/augmented reality. Those, I think, are a little bit further off before they will become mainstream. There's certainly emerging technologies. I think we'll see the growth of China and Asia, which we've seen over the last few years, will only continue to grow. And I think we'll also see new major gaming markets emerge as more and more communities around the world get higher speed internet, better access to technology. I think right now it's only the start of the games industry's rapid growth. And for Calgary to form an industry here, it's going to be a really great opportunity for the city, but also the people here, because it's not showing any signs of slowing down anytime soon. It'll just continue to grow.
John Higgins, Marketing and Communications Director with New World Interactive. Thanks a lot for joining me today from Calgary.
Thank you very much for having us. We appreciate it.
On behalf of all of us here at PCN, I'm Hal Roberts. God bless and have a great night.